Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the next episode of our Dev2Dev series about best practices in extending your core S4HANA system. We are here today with my colleague Michael. He's an experienced programmer with a keen interest in the RAP framework, so the RESTful Application Programming Framework. And myself, I'm Maarten. I'm an S4HANA technical architect with a specific focus on accessibility. Some practical info. So everybody's muted, we can't hear you. The session will be recorded. You can chat with us, so you can ask any question you have in English, please. And at the end of the session, there will be a Q&A session. So then we'll try to answer your questions. So let's look at the agenda. When talking about S4HANA extensibility, the clean core paradigm can't be ignored. So important to have a common understanding of this concept. So we'll demystify this. Then we'll briefly go over the extensibility options available in S4HANA to achieve this clean core principle. Next, Michael will do a short demo of key user extensibility, and then we'll close with the wrap-up and the Q&A session. So let's dive in. First of all, demystifying the clean core paradigm. So keep the core clean. It's a well-known statement of SAP, but for a lot of people, there's no clear definition. So basically, clean core is a methodology for customizing and extending SAP systems without altering the core processes and code. But we'll go deeper into the topic in the next slides. First of all, why does it matter for you? First of all, having an S4HANA system which is extended according to the best practices, it will be more upgrade stable. So this will decrease the effort of any future upgrades of the solution. And since upgrades will be less time consuming and more hassle-free, you will be able to upgrade sooner to be able to leverage the latest innovations, the latest bug fixes, and so on. Next, having a modification-free system, it will also clear the way to a possible move to the Azure public cloud solution, which is for a lot of customers, this is an important goal with the cloud-first strategy of SAP. And finally, in the short term, having a cleaner core, it will result in less development work, easier system maintenance, and a lower total cost of ownership. So we'll try to define a common understanding of the clean core principle, but as I already mentioned, the definition of a clean core is somewhat vague for a lot of people because there's a lot of misconceptions about the topic. So we've listed two of them here. So clean core is only about custom code and extensions, and the second one is fit to standard is the only way to make and keep the core clean, and we'll tackle them in the upcoming slides. So the first misconception, it was clean core is only about custom code and extensions. This is definitely not true. So the idea of clean core, it should be managed across different dimensions of the S4HANA solution. So not only code, but also a lot of other dimensions. These dimensions, we've listed them on this slide. So clean core, it also includes having a system which is up to date on a software level, well extended, integrated using standard APIs and integration content, has good data quality, processes based on SAP best practices, and also proper governance in daily operations. For the session of today, obviously we'll be focusing on the extensibility topic because of the technical audience and our time is limited. So the next misconception, we'll tackle them by looking at the extensibility options in S4HANA. So the second misconception, it was fit to standard is the only way to make and keep the core clean. This is not true. So clean core, it doesn't mean you can't create extensions, but you have to create them in the right way. So they work seamlessly with the SAP standard coding and solution to avoid issues when the core system is changed. So yeah, for instance, when upgrading the system. So there are two main options of creating extensions. On the left side, you see the on-stack extensibility, so on the SAP core itself, which is done via on-stack extensibility. And on the right side, in the business technology platform, the loosely coupled extensions via side-by-side extensibility. So on the SAP stack, there are three main options to create extensions. First of all, key user extensibility. So this can be used to create extensions on applications with limited to no knowledge of coding. Use cases of this are adding custom fields, rearranging fields, or deleting fields of standard UIs. Next, on-stack developer extensibility, mainly for creating new applications and APIs using the RAP framework, also on the ABAP stack. And finally, classic extensibility. So that's the legacy option for extending the system. As you probably all know, user exits, enhancements, and so on. And again, on the right side, we see BTP as an extension platform for use cases which are less suited to build on the SAP core itself. Very important to note, classic extensibility, it's not considered as clean core by SAP. So this should be avoided in a clean core way of thinking. And to give a small overview of the capabilities of each option, so key user extensibility mainly focused on less complex extensions on existing applications. So UI flexibility, Fiori extensions, basic business logic extensibility, and field table and API extensibility. Next, on-stack developer extensibility used mainly for creating more complex extensions or completely new processes in Fiori, but also for APIs based on data. And finally, side-by-side extensibility on BTP for applications which are more loosely coupled with S/4HANA core processes. Now I'll hand over to Michael and he will give you a demo about key user extensibility.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Hello everyone. So I'm going to give you the demo about key user extensibility. So what are we going to do? I'm going to adapt a standard Fiori application, the managed PO, the managed purchase order. And there I'm going to add a custom field. And also I'm going to add some custom logic. For example, if I will calculate the total net price of all the items in my PO, and if the total net price is higher than a certain amount, I will give my custom field the value true, and if it is not, I will give it the value false, just as an example. So where do we start? Well, we go to the Fiori Launchpad for that. Let me open it. And the first thing you see here is that I have some apps or tiles available for key user extensibility. How can you find these? Well, you need to do some small basic setup in your backend system. And of course, you need to add the Fiori catalogs and Fiori groups to a role and assign your user to that role. So today we will focus mostly on custom fields and custom logic, but be aware there are more possibilities like custom CDS fields, custom business objects, and so on. So I want to add a custom field. Where do I start? Well, I click on custom fields. And the screen that you see now here is a list of all the already created custom fields in your system. And you might notice we already have one custom field. That is actually the field that we are going to use, because in the process of creating a custom field, at the end you need to do some publishing. And publishing can take up some time. So that can take up to 5, maybe 10 minutes, because SAP needs to reload, recompile all kinds of objects to add your custom field to standard apps. So we are not going to do that today, of course, but I can still show you how to do it. If you want to create a new custom field, you press on the Add button. And the first thing you need to do is actually you have to choose the correct business context. In which business context do you want to add your custom field? If I click it open, you might notice, okay, there are a lot of possibilities, and can be sometimes a bit hard to find, okay, but which business context exactly do I need to extend to add a custom field in, for example, managed PO? I have a small trick for that. Instead of directly going to the custom fields app, we are actually going to the standard Fiori app, and from the place where I want to add my custom field in my standard Fiori app, from there I can actually open the custom field set directly. So I can show you that. Then we go to the managed PO app. Okay, we have one PO normally. It's loading. Quickly, there it is. So it's a demo system. We only have one PO. I can go to the detail screen. And here on the left, on the basic data section, there I want to add a custom field, for example. There I'm going to add it. So what can I do here? I can click on my person, and you see I have a menu option, Adapt UI. Adapt UI is part of the key user accessibility framework, and you can be made available for you if you add assign a certain role to your user, and then you can start adapting standard UIs in the key user accessibility framework. So I click on it, and now you can see I can start moving fields around. I can click on a section, and I can add the field. Okay, sometimes it needs to reload. Let me reload the app quickly. That's because there's already an old extension active. And so again, press Adapt UI. So again, so in this section, I can click on it. And normally I have an add button, so I can add new custom fields, or I can add a new section, I can remove fields, and so on. So if you press the add button, you will get a pop-up with already available fields that you can add here in this standard application. It could be that there are already standard fields available to add in your standard Fiori application, but also custom new fields are then listed in this list. If you think, okay, but my new custom field is not yet here, you can press add button again. And then basically you navigate again to the custom fields app, but now the business context is preloaded for me. And so SAP has predefined the business context for me. I can just do the same. I can press here on the create new, and you see business context is already pre-filled for me. So I can add a label, for example, expensive. I have to give it a unique identifier. So let me make it 2. I can add some tooltip. Then I need to select, okay, by custom field, what type of field do you want to create? You have some possibilities. For example, you can choose a checkbox. You can do a code list is a drop down. You can also have a drop down with the CDS view, value held behind it. You have a date, a number, a text, and so on. Also, each type of data element that you choose, basically text, for example, also has a length. Number also has decimals, so each type has its own options. So in this demo, I'm going to choose checkbox. I'm going to create it. So now, okay, we have created a new custom field, but it's not yet exposed in any UI or any data service. So I have to go to the detail screen on that. So here you see, okay, I have my custom field, and now I can decide, okay, in which standard report, in which standard UI, API, email, phone templates, and so on, where do I want to expose it in SAP? So you can here click on the enable usage if you want. Also keep in mind that remember we went from the managed PO app via adapt UI menu option. So also here the system knows managed purchase order. I will enable it already for the user because he knows I came from that standard app, so he already is enabling that UI for me there. Yeah. If you sometimes this can be a bit hard to know, okay, but which description is now which data service and which one do I need to enable? Also, small tip here: if you go to the column settings, you have an extra column data source. It's not always visible by default. And basically, what it does, it will give you the technical name of the data service belonging to that description. And so that often that helps to find, okay, yes, it is this specific data service that I want to extend. So it is this description here that I need to enable usage to have it enabled. So if you are finished with enabling all the places that you want, you press save and then you press publish. But reminder, publishing takes some time. So you have to wait 5 to 10 minutes. So keep that in mind. So I'm not going to do that now, of course. I have already one field created for you. So now we have a custom field. It is enabled in certain UIs, but I still need to add some custom logic to that. We can go to this tab here, custom logic. And here, same principle, I can create a new one. So again, business context is already pre-filled for me. I have to decide which body that I want to implement. So basic custom logic is basically implementing a body implementation. So you might see, okay, for managed PO app, okay, we have already a lot of bodies available in the system that you can implement. But still, sometimes here also it can be a bit tricky. Okay, but which body exactly do I want to implement? And okay, which description is actually which body? So if you hover over a body like this, you will see the technical name of that body. It is this technical name that you can enter in, for example, SE18. And you can see, okay, what is this body about? Are there already other Z implementations that I've created? What is the parameters? You can also add a breakpoint if you want there. So it's a good tip so to find the technical name of a body. So in this demo, I'm going to choose a modified purchase order header. And we are going to add a custom field in our PO header. Excuse me. So I also give it a description, demo, press create. Now you might see, okay, it will complain, okay, but you have already an implementation. That is, yes, indeed, I have already created an implementation. Just to show you, you cannot have multiple implementations of the same body in the key user extensibility framework. So I can still change the one that I already have and add some code to it. So we can go to it. So this one here, the Dev2Dev demo. I can click on it. And then we go into the editor screen of our our custom logic. So if you want to change it, so we can create a draft. You can see, okay, but on the right you see what is already published, and on the left you see, okay, here can I change. So at the moment we have already published the coding, but let me quickly explain what it does. So basically it is a loop over our PO item table. And for each item, we make a sum of the net price, and that we all gather all the net price in the total net amount variable. And then we check, okay, if the total net price is higher than 500, we give our Z field, our custom field, the value ABAP true. If it is not higher, then we give it the value ABAP false. Small reminder here is that this is not you cannot really enter your standard ABAP syntax. So this is the editor, and because we are doing a key user extensibility, you need to use the ABAP for key user. And so basically, in general, there are three types of ABAP syntax. We have the standard ABAP syntax, we have the ABAP for key user, which we have to use here, and of course, you have the ABAP for cloud development. What are the differences between the standard ABAP syntax and the key user ABAP syntax is, for example, we cannot do direct selects on a standard table or the standard database table, of course, or you cannot do commit works and so on. Now the editor is smart enough, so it will give you errors if you use a syntax that is not allowed anymore. What can you also do here? You can do some testing, and you have some body documentation, and so you can go to that documentation. It will give you some functional information, but also some technical information. What is this body about? So if you are if you're done with your coding, basically you can let me just enter a space to give you a new draft. You can save the draft, and then you can publish it. Now, publishing custom logic, it goes quite fast. It takes around 10 seconds. So that is something that I can demo, and that will normally will be quite quick enough to be here. Voilà. Now it's already published. So now already we have a custom field. It is enabled in certain UIs. We have published our custom logic, but now I still need to go to my standard Fury app, and I need to adapt the UI there and add my custom field to that UI. So let me do that. So we go back to our app, and what I always do is I reload the app because I published some new custom logic. So the best way is always to go outside the app, do a refresh, and go back into the app. It can be a bit slower now because it still needs to compile sometimes some things in the backend. So we go back to our PO, we go back to the detail screen. On the right, on the person, we click on Adapt UI. It's normally opening now. You can click here on the basic data. I can, for example, language, I can remove it. And I can add my expensive fields. So I can just click on it, OK. And by just a single click, now my custom field is now available in my standard Fury app. Now, if you want to activate this adaptation, this UI adaptation, at the top you have an Activate New Version button. So you click on it, you give it a name, for example, demo. You press confirm, and then on the right you have to, of course, you have to click Save and Exit. And if you do that, you see now, okay, I've adapted my UI. So this Fury standard app, this UI from that is now adapted. I've added my custom field and my custom logic to it. So if I would edit this PO now, or I would create a new PO, then my custom logic will be executed, and then the value of expensive will be calculated based on the net price of the items in my payroll. And so hopefully it was a bit learnful. I just want to show you how easy and how quick it is to extend standard view up with key user extensibility. So with this, I'll give the word back to Marta, and he will give you the wrap up, and then we can answer the Q&A together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So let's go over to the wrap up of today. So yeah, we've discussed the possibilities for extending your S/4HANA system. So you have the three main options: the key user extensibility, on-stack developer extensibility, and side-by-side extensibility. Now, an important question is which option should you use when? As you can see in the demo, and the key user extensibility, it can be very powerful in extending existing applications. Michael only needed roughly 10 minutes to add a field to your application, including a body implementation. Yeah, in the past, this would have taken a lot of development work. So because of the cost effectiveness of the framework, we would always recommend to use this option if it suits your use case, obviously. If key user extensibility is not an option, you'll have to look at on-stack developer extensibility versus side-by-side extensibility. And choosing the right technology here, it's a lot more difficult, and it really depends on the use case. So there are a lot of criteria to consider, going from the technical solution design, other non-functional requirements like flexible app availability, and also even knowledge of the implementation team if you want to build it in-house. Luckily, we have a decision tree for this to help you with this choice. I'll come back to this in a few slides. So at Flexo, we really believe that extending the system in a clean core way is definitely the way forward in the future. And also important to note that it's not a single or a one-time action. It's really a continuous journey. So it's useful to already be aware of the clean core principle, and that you already start looking today at how to extend your system in the best possible way to really build a solid foundation for the future, even if you're not on S/4HANA yet. This is not an easy task, so you will need to incorporate this way of thinking across your organization, so not only developers, but also functional colleagues. And this will only be possible by defining an extension strategy, which is supported with specific guidelines and with governance. And therefore, we also have an extensibility assessment available, where we look together with you how to define your extensibility strategy for the future, assess your existing system, and define the next steps in your extensibility journey, and also look at how we can help with defining governance and QA process to be sure that you make and keep your S/4HANA system clean. So next to all these actions, there's also an important part of the assessment, which is providing you tools to aid you in the architectural and in the technological decision from a development perspective. So this is actually a sneak preview from the assessment. So the first tool is the extensibility architecture decision tree. So this will provide key questions to objectively choose the best technology regarding architecture and to build extension. So this is a template we provide. So we believe that those are already important key questions. And so during the assessment, we go over this tree and we change it to completely match it to the needs of your organization. I won't go through the whole tree because our time is limited today. But as an example, as you can see from the second decision block, the question is, does S/4HANA contain most of the data used? If this is not the case, it's probably best to create a separate database on BTP and build the extension using side-by-side extensibility. Also important to note, this is a guideline, so it's not a general rule. There could always be cases where a different decision could be made. So that's the first tool. The second tool that we provide is the extension technology matrix. And this will give each possible extension task a link to all available building blocks. So, and in this overview, we also already foreseen a color coding to indicate what is a preferred way to do a specific extension, what might be an option, and what to avoid completely. Again, this is a template with a general recommendation, and this will be fine-tuned during the assessment for your specific extensibility strategy. Again, to give a concrete example, if you want to add a custom field to an existing business object, you will have the 5 options listed below. And to follow the clean core principle, the best way would be to use key user extensibility, as Michael has shown in the demo. Options to avoid should be customizing includes, append structures, and extension includes, but these still might be an option depending on your case. For instance, if your system is not yet on S/4HANA, when key user extensibility is not available. And the option to completely avoid is obviously the table modification. Finally, so here you can find the non-exhaustive list of the deliverables you can expect from the extensibility assessment. So first of all, we give insight in the sub-extension strategy and tools according to the clean core principle. And so this is to create a clean core definition, which is specific for your company, looking at your extension strategy and to the future outlook of your SAP landscape. We do an assessment of your current system and its extensions, and based on this, we give a short and long-term recommendation regarding clean core and extensions. The tools I've just shown, so the extensibility architecture decision tree and the extension technology matrix, will be provided to, and we will together fine-tune them perfectly to your needs. And finally, it's important to have a process in place. Be sure the principles are also followed. So looking at the governance and defining specific guidelines is also part of the assessment. So depending on your specific case, it could be supported via ATC code checks, maybe a code review culture, or even someone with specific QA role regarding clean core within your company or supported by Flexo. So this is definitely an interesting process. So feel free to reach out if you are interested in this. And with that, I would like to end the presentation of today. As you probably know, there's a lot of other episodes in the Dev2Dev series. So if you're interested, feel free to check all the recordings on YouTube if you didn't have a chance to join them live. And the recording of this webinar will also be added in a few days. And with that, I will always like to thank you for your attendance. Hopefully it was interesting. And now we open the Q&A session. Yes.
Let us go to the Q&A. So the first question, are classical bodies or kernel-side bodies also considered as not clean core? So yeah, that's a good question. This difference is SAP is actually exposing or making certain bodies available for clean development. So okay, because they have a long list of different bodies, and they are working on it, on making more and more bodies, more and more that even these are clean core. So it depends a bit on the version that you are, which bodies are yet available, are already clean core available. But this is an ongoing job by SAP, and the goal is to make all the bodies available and that they're all clean core or cloud ready.
Yeah, and maybe to build further on the answer of Michael, you will see that every body has a specific indicator if it's released or not, and also in an S4 system, you will see there's specific contract types linked to the body, and at that level, you can see is it cloud released, so is it available on public cloud? Is it released for key user extensibility, or is it released for, let's say, normal classical body implementations? Yeah.
New question. These changes need to be done on Fiori only, or could it also be done in GUI? So normally your adaptations, the key user adaptation is done in Fiori, but in the usage of where you want to expose your change, also sometimes GUIs can also be adapted together with the Fiori UI. But in general, you start from the Fiori UI, and then perhaps you change also the GUI. Because keep in mind, in the cloud later on, the GUI is less and less used, and they are going more and more, the UI is more and more a Fiori UI. So also important on that.
And again, to build further on the answer of Michael, there are specific GUI transactions. Or maybe go back. Not every Fiori application that you see in the Launchpad, it's completely built on UI5 technology. So there are also sub GUI transactions which are Fioritized with a web GUI with the Fiori team around it. And specific applications are still heavily used by SAP. And for specific transactions, there's also an automatic mechanism which makes sure that if you add a field using custom fields, that there's automatically an extra tab available where the custom fields are also listed. But there you don't have the possibility to rearrange them, so it's just a plain list of the custom fields that you've added.
The next question, is the additional field that is added in the UI also included in all the standard APIs? In the old world, I suppose that this could mean added in BAPI signature and in the IDOC segments. Depends. If you create a new custom field, you have maybe you remember I went to the detail screen of my custom field, and there I chose in which UIs, but also in which OData APIs am I going to expose it. So you have to choose the correct API then. Could be OData, could be SOAP or another protocol. But then you have to decide, where do I want to choose my custom field. I think IDOC is not included. IDOC is also something that is not by SAP, it's not cloud ready. And so IDOC is a protocol that they prefer to use for data APIs or SOAP APIs. And so the data should, the IDOCs is not in the list normally of APIs that you can expose there. Maybe for you, the next question.
Will the publishing and the transport into QA or production still cause dumps for people who are in the transaction app? In case if it's a Fiori application, then it will not create a dump, except when the compiling is happening in the background. But basically, if you have a Fiori application, in the beginning it will fetch the metadata of the service. So if the metadata is changed during the usage of the application, then I don't think that there will be a dump, except when the compiling is going on at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and so the last question of today, because we have to close the session. Where does the data of the new field reside, or is it only visible in the Fiori app and calculated on the fly? So that's a good question. So what you will actually see in the backend if you create a custom field is that there will be a customer include automatically added by SAP. So if you add a custom field like Michael did in the demo, for example on the PO header, then you will see in the echo table, you will see that there will be a custom field added with a generated UI, with a generated UID. So you will still be able to use it, for instance, in other custom coding if you would like that.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to thank everyone for listening. Hope it was a bit learnful, and we are happy to hear from you again and see you later. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.